Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, the award-winning Great Indoors is proud to come to the fabulous Las Vegas Convention Center, MWC 2022. Baby, let's make it amazing.
Thank you, Mr. Sinatra. Yes, this is season 5 of TGI, and here in Las Vegas, as the GSMA's official podcast, I am joined by a multitude of spectacular guests from across the industry. I'm also joined by my producer and co-pilot, Larissa Yee. Now, over the coming weeks or so, we will be bringing you these incredible conversations that we captured at North America's biggest telecoms and technology show. Now, for this first episode of Season 5, we will be talking Digital Divide with T-Mobile's Dr. Kiesha King and AT&T's Jeff Luong. Every conversation is simply a cracker. So buckle up and let's get started. So this is episode number 1, our first guest at the Great Indoors MWC 2022 here in Las Vegas. So I'd like to welcome our first guest from T-Mobile, Dr. Kiesha King. Kiesha,
Good
welcome.
morning. Dr. Kiesha King here. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. It's really great to be back. Really good to be back at the show. Kiesha, if you will, just give us an introduction on yourself and the role that you do for T-Mobile.
Sure. My name is Dr. Kiesha King. I am the Senior National Education Administrator for T-Mobile for Education. Previously, or forever, a teacher, a principal and executive director of curriculum and technology in a district of 70,000 students, 96% free and reduced lunch. So I know all too well some of the things that our school districts and state leaders are facing in regard to education. And excited to be a part of T-Mobile's initiative to help bridge that divide.
Yeah, I think it's an absolutely amazing initiative. Really, really incredible. And before we go into that in more depth, just from a personal perspective, since we did this show 12 months ago, what's the biggest innovation that's personally touched or impacted your life in the last 12 months?
Oh my goodness. The fact that we're able to interact with one another again is a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
But from a technology innovation perspective, definitely the advancement of immersive learning experiences and XR opportunities for our students, right? We know that there's a lot still developing there, but just watching students interact in a virtual world and have that experience to learn and grow and thinking about the impacts that has on the future workforce is just phenomenal.
No, and I can relate to that personally. I have 4 young children that when we went into the lockdown switched to, the remote education system, and it benefited them fantastically as far as their IT skills moving forward. So tell us a little bit about Project 10 Million, Kiesha, because I was in Copenhagen last week on stage with Meg Noth from T-Mobile, and she mentioned this initiative. Give us a little bit more on what Project 10 Million is all about.
Project 10 Million is literally the first and only program to ever provide connectivity of this magnitude to K-12 students across the country to bridge the digital divide across the country's most vulnerable student populations. The qualification is the National School Lunch Program. We're seeking to connect 10 million students over a 5-year time frame. Wow. What that means is that for every single eligible student household, they could receive one no-cost hotspot shipped directly to the home. Wow. With 5 years of internet access, 100 gigs per year. And think about the opportunity to really scale that across the education system, right? You're talking about students who generally don't have access to academic vocabulary. They don't have access to traveling experiences and exposure to all types of sports and industries. Having access to the internet allows us to then open a world of opportunities to those students.
Absolutely.
And that's exactly what Project 10 Million seeks to do.
And I think since the pandemic, this digital divide really became apparent. I mean, it always existed, but it shone a light on it, right, really. And I think in 12 months from that particular crisis, I think we're in another crisis now, the cost of living, the impact of inflation. Is that further accentuating the digital divide issue?
Absolutely. When you think about connecting a student, that's only at the very center of an education ecosystem that provides students with access. Now, when we connect a student, we're actually connecting them to telehealth resources. We're connecting them to transportation resources, food resources, unemployment opportunities, government assistance, all the nonprofits that are working so hard throughout the communities. And last but definitely not least, business industry. And so that connectivity for students is so much bigger than just saying, oh, we want to provide a hotspot to a K-12 student that is underserved. No, we want to connect them to opportunities and infrastructures that they normally would not have access to.
No, and that leads me into my next question perfectly, because whenever we talk about the digital divide, we always start at education. We always say education, and of course it's key. But like you said there, providing that hotspot doesn't just give the obvious educational benefits, but it opens the door to services that are now becoming predominantly digital, and you're deprived of them if you do not have that access.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And these populations are highly mobile. They're highly transient populations that they're not just sitting at home all day. So when we ask the question, do you have internet access at home? We're really missing the mark, right? The question is, do you have internet access everywhere you go?
Yeah.
And that's what Project 10 Million seeks to answer. And as a company, we are 100% committed to making sure that we're a part of the solve. As you can see with all of our network initiatives and all the amazing things we're doing across the company, Project 10 Million is just another part of our commitment to America's children.
Yeah. And you just made me think of something there. We're well into the race for 5G in the United States, right? And I go to many events and see many of your executives talk about how groundbreaking, how T-Mobile is leading in that 5G rollout. And over the years, we've always talked about 5G will bring you this, 5G will bring you that, blah, blah, blah. But in this instance, we can point to a demonstrable societal benefit that 5G network provides, right?
Yeah, you're spot on. When you think about 5G in education, you're talking about reducing latency for students who may have an opportunity to simulate a science experiment where they don't have access to a frog or a human cadaver, right? You're talking about opportunities for them to walk through a world or an immersive experience that they would never otherwise have an opportunity to see, whether it's in the past, the present, or the future. And so 5G is a real game changer. Never mind rural area students. Right? When you think about students who traditionally have never had access to internet, ever, unless they go to a town away, or if they go to mom and dad's job that happens to have built-in infrastructure for Wi-Fi access, they can't even get it in their home. Right? And so 5G means something very special to those populations who otherwise have never had an opportunity to just sit with a laptop or a Chromebook and Google what Italy looks like, right? Or Google a random thought, or say, hey, I want to fix my bike. Why doesn't Susie have the opportunity to look up how to fix her bike just like, anyone else does?
Yeah. But that's a fascinating point, because like you said, you can give people connectivity, and the T-Mobile 5G network provides that wireless 5G connectivity pretty much across the population of the United States now. But there's another element, like you said there, the immersive, and I'm pointing to our VR headsets, but that immersive educational experience where you engage. I remember when I was at school, there was nothing like that. I mean, you looked in a textbook, you saw 2D images, right? But now my children can, like you said, Italy, they can go to Italy in a virtual world. They can immerse themselves. We had a holographic display company called iKin talk to us, and you don't just study the eye from an educational perspective. You immerse yourself within the eye. So it's a fantastic revolution. But that leads me on to another thing, and I think it's going to be talked about a lot here this week, and that's the metaverse. How do you think the metaverse, super hyped up word and topic, but how do you think from your experience as a teacher and the role that you perform at T-Mobile, how is that going to take education to the next level?
Number one impact, in my opinion, is future workforce. Right now, we have 65% of students who are underrepresented that will not have access to an innovative future workforce that does not exist today.
Yeah.
How do we change that? We create immersive experiences like the metaverse. We give them an opportunity to help us build those experiences, right? And now we're actually opening up a future that they generally didn't even know was a potential for them, right? That's going to be the biggest impact. Now, of course, another impact is being able to create diverse opportunities within future metaverse experiences that takes into account all of the different ways that we live our lives.
Yeah.
Right? And that's going to be critical. And the students that we're working with today are the ones who are going to develop that.
Yeah. And can you already see this having a distinct benefit on those students that you're serving?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's funny, I was watching a presentation a couple of days ago, and it was just talking about, people were so immersed in trying to figure out how to teach millennials. Now we need to figure out how to teach the Fortnite generation.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
How are you going to keep those students engaged? How else but to create an environment that stimulates those same things and allows them to immerse themselves into a learning experience, into an experience, right? That allows them to continue learning.
What's the interaction or the relationship that you have now with educational institutions?
It's interesting. We have connected in total over 4.5 million students across the company.
Wow.
And even when I think about it, it's mind-blowing, particularly the progress that we made throughout the pandemic and after the pandemic in regards to connecting students, leveraging, the Emergency Connectivity Fund through the FCC and all these other amazing programs. We've worked with over 5,000 education entities across the country. And so you think about, the landscape of how school districts work. That means you're talking to mayors and governors and state superintendents and commissioners. Yeah. You're sitting on digital equity boards and education cabinets so that you can help to figure this out. This is not a prescriptive environment. This is very much let's sit down with city government leaders and officials to solve something collectively for cities and counties and states that otherwise would just sit and continue to exacerbate as a problem.
Yeah. And what I think is amazing, and it's something we've focused on this podcast for the last 12 months, I think it was because of the pandemic. Tech companies and service providers like T-Mobile now have this inherent obligation to the communities they serve. It's tech for good. We're not just doing it now for the dollars and cents. Of course, it's good to make money along the way, but there's this switch now, and everybody is focused on how all of this great technology that we build and promote can help society as also. It must feel pretty good.
It feels amazing. One thing to think about with regard to T-Mobile is that, in comparison to every other tech company, T-Mobile, even before the pandemic, they didn't just bring on anyone to figure out how to work with kids. They brought someone in that has a demonstrated experiential knowledge of how the education system works and how to effectively serve underrepresented populations of students. And I think that's something that's been a phenomenal opportunity to grow out a team of education leaders across this company that really work in various areas of the country that are highly known for their work in education specific to students, having doctoral degrees in that area, and really focusing in on how T-Mobile is a part of the solve. That's the part that's special.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that leads me into my next question perfectly is, we know a lot of the service providers around the world are looking to close that digital divide for all the reasons we talked about as part of this discussion. But that's what you mentioned there gives T-Mobile a very distinct differentiator. The fact that you're bringing in not just other tech people, but people that know that issue more than anybody else. It's branching out of the traditional sort of tech thinking and product management.
It is. And it's trusting that other industries know what's best for their industry.
Yeah.
Right? It's being able to sit down and say, hey, we want you at the table because we know you understand these populations. How can you solve something if you don't have a connection to what you're trying to solve?
Yeah.
And it's really been a beautiful process being a part of the team and really coming in and having the autonomy to design programs like Project 10 Million have been phenomenal.
And I go over to Bellevue quite often. I was there twice in September.
Beautiful place.
But it is. It's very nice. But I love the vibe around the brand and the magenta, and I can see it here at the show. There's a lot of T-Mobile, but there's a real youthfulness and excitement about T-Mobile. And do you feel that?
It's real.
Yeah.
It's real. I mean, this is not just something where you have a company that ships you some swag ever so often, and so you feel compelled to wear it.
Yeah.
You really believe in the culture of the company and the goals that the company has. And, thinking about doing things for good is great. But when you're actually able to operationalize that and you have a whole team of executive leaders that are fully supportive of that vision, that makes you want to wear magenta every single day.
And I was just going to say, and it rubs off on companies around. So
Are you excited right now?
Well, I am, but I'll tell you what I did last week. This is really interesting because we have an office over the road from Bellevue. But I was in Copenhagen last week with Meg from T-Mobile, and she was up on stage. She was wearing full magenta, and I wore a magenta tie. I don't know the word vicariously. I was absorbing the brand, which I thought was really good. I thought it was really cool.
This brand is that magenta is not just something that we wear. I think that it really is a belief system. It's a belief system around innovation. It's a belief system around doing things differently and being the uncarrier. Yeah. In a market where, people traditionally stay safe. And T-Mobile is really unafraid to go out there and push boundaries. Yeah. We work directly with those school districts, directly with government entities to try and solve these issues for communities. And it's been highly effective.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And do you know what I think? And I look at a lot of different markets around the world and lots of different service providers. But I think the world needs more T-Mobile. I think that the disruption, the energy, the vibe, everything we've talked around the closing. Imagine if every service provider elsewhere in the world had that passion and commitment. How it would be incredible, wouldn't it?
I completely agree. I think if everyone had a pulse on what students actually need, and we solve for what they actually need, it's very easy to go into a community and say, "Oh, these people look hungry. Let's provide them with meals." Then you go buy 10,000 meals, 2,000 families get them, and you just conclude that they're not hungry, so okay, they don't need the meals.
Yeah.
How about you really research and change the way that you're assessing what the needs are, and change the way you're delivering to meet those needs?
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden you have a strategy for success. And I think that's exactly what T-Mobile did by bringing in teams of education experts to really, figure out what is the strategy for success.
No, it's fantastic. It's really amazing. Okay, Kiesha, I've really enjoyed our conversation. Now, this is how we finish each of these episodes.
Is there cake?
We can get cake. We can bring cake. But what we do is we finish with our quick-fire question round called TGI to go.
All right.
5 questions, multiple choice. You just tell us your preference.
Okay.
Okay, you ready?
Yes.
This is TGI to go.
TGI to go.
So question number 1, Frank Sinatra or Dean Martin?
Frank Sinatra.
That's good. That's what we'll have Frank here later on at 3 p.m. He will be singing. It's not the real Frank.
It's okay.
It's okay.
I'll
it's
enjoy
close.
him.
It's close.
Yeah.
Question number 2, singing or dancing?
Singing.
Okay.
I have 2 left feet.
Okay. Well, that's okay. Well, we'll be singing with Frank later as well.
Okay. Will he know my name?
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's great.
A Vegas-related question, blackjack or slots?
Slots.
Yeah?
Yes, because I don't know how to do either, and I would imagine I can pull the handle. I can figure that out pretty easily.
The next one, Alaska or Iceland?
Alaska. Right. Northern Lights.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You like it?
Oh my God, Alaska's absolutely gorgeous.
And the last one, pizza or pasta? It's very Italian.
Pizza.
Yeah?
You can't go wrong with pizza. You kind of can, depending on who's making it. But usually it's a good choice.
Okay, brilliant. Well, look, that concludes our first episode here at MWC 2022. I've really enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you. Likewise.
Kiesha. And are there any last closing thoughts that you would like to leave for our audience?
The biggest thing is if you're going to make a commitment, make sure that it really speaks to the populations you serve. T-Mobile has done just such a phenomenal job, and this is me speaking as a forever educator. T-Mobile has done a phenomenal job tapping into communities and really being highly responsive to what they actually need. And I would just encourage any of our, our peers, whether it's at internet service providers or device providers, or innovative strategy, companies, really tap into the needs of those communities and seek to solve a future problem right now that we don't have solutions for. How do we get underserved populations and those students and communities a part of a future workforce that right now they just don't have access to? We're in such a beautiful position to do that.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Well, I've enjoyed our conversation immensely, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of your week.
Thank you so much. Until next time.
Until next time, for sure.
All right.
So my next guest here at the Great Indoors at MWC 2022 in Las Vegas is someone we've had on the show before, but this is the first time in person. So I'd like to welcome Mr. Jeff Luong from AT&T to the Great Indoors.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here live.
Yeah, great to see you live. And I'm looking forward to picking up from where we were 12 months ago, because it was a fascinating conversation when we first met. But just for our listeners, Jeff, give everyone a brief overview of your role at AT&T now.
So my title is the President of Access and Adoption. So my job is to actually go and work with communities to help close the digital divide. So we work on a lot of different opportunities in terms of addressing the three pillars of digital divide, which is access, making sure that people have the ability to sign up for connections. Affordability, making sure that they have the ability to actually pay for the service and can afford the service, and then also adoption in terms of making sure that people understand the value of the internet, know how to utilize it to its fullest, and get the benefit that we all are currently getting from a highly connected digital world.
Okay, and since we spoke a year ago, what have yourself and AT&T done to further bridge the divide?
Oh my God! How much time do you have? I could go on for days.
3 days.
3 days. All
right.
All right. So I'll take 2 of those 3 days. Let me start off, kind of addressing it across the 3 pillars of access, affordability, and adoption. So from an access perspective, we've been very active in creating public-private partnerships with the state and local governments. I just completed a keynote speech where I talked about how we're deploying fiber broadband to communities across the country. The one that I shared was in Vandenberg, Indiana, where we're building fiber, and we're actually proud to announce that we're actually delivering service in less than a year. And then when the contract was signed, exactly 7 months actually from when the contract was executed to us actually delivering service. There's no companies that has the ability to deliver networks at the speed and effectiveness and scale that we do here in AT&T. But it's not just fiber alone. We're also working with communities on wireless opportunities as well too. We're working with a tribal nation to build out wireless coverage to a rural, challenging terrain area that are providing connectivity to a place that has no connectivity, and really changing the lives of that community. We are leveraging our FirstNet capabilities, deploying Band 14, expanding coverage to other tribal nations such as the Navajo nations, provide connectivity for their first responders, but also allowing the community as a whole to also utilize those services as well too, and expand the services. So from an access perspective, we've been super aggressive, super active, working with communities across the country. From an affordability perspective, we've been partnering with the government. The government, through the bipartisan infrastructure bill, has a program called the Affordable Connectivity Program. This program allows families that are eligible $30 relief on their connectivity solution, whether it is a home broadband solution or it's a wireless solution. They get help with those monthly bills. What we did in AT&T in terms of leading this effort is we came up with a solution that is a $30 a month solution for our fiber-based services that is 100 megabit symmetric, up and down. What that means is that for families that sign up for our AT&T Access product and sign up for ACP through the federal government, they get connectivity for free, 100 megabit symmetric service for free when combining those 2 offers. And that's a great program. That's a great program to get more people connected to the internet. And then lastly, on the adoption side of it, is we're working with organizations throughout the country to help with adoption effort. The one that there's a ton of them, but the one that I would point out is our connected learning centers. We are building connected learning centers across the country. These are locations actually in the community, partner with local organizations that know the community best, that provide high-speed connectivity, state-of-the-art computing devices, and also providing resources to help them get better educated on broadband, on how to use the internet, how to use it effectively, how to use it safely, and how to really sign up for these other programs that allows them to move that connectivity from these centers to their home and eventually be part of this digital economy.
I mean, wow, because it's not just about the connectivity. It's like you said, that adoption and ensuring that is critical, absolutely critical. Now, how many communities would you say you've managed to reach in the last 12 months since we spoke?
Yeah, we are not. We have not publicly shared the specific counts of communities, but I would tell you that we are active across the country in terms of having discussions. We have signed. We have actually executed contracts and publicly announced opportunities across the state of Indiana, in Kentucky, in Texas, in Louisiana, and there are more to come. And I think every single week we are seeing more opportunities for us to engage, and we are finding a lot of receptive partners to work with us.
And the reason I ask is because I see a lot of it out there. I see yourself in particular on LinkedIn. I see a lot of what AT&T is doing. It's a really momentous initiative, right, that's gathering pace every day.
Not only are we hearing about it, seeing about it, and feeling the momentum that's there, the thing that I'm proud of is that we're actually getting results. This is actually resulting in investment, taking federal investment, combining it with private sector investment, and actually putting network in the ground, creating jobs for people, and then also connecting these desperately needed communities. In Vandenberg, Indiana, for example, the community that I just mentioned, we are actually now delivering service and providing service, and we're seeing the adoption rate exceeding what our expectation is, and we're seeing these communities buying these really high-speed connections because they understand what this could do for them in terms of not just for the personal use in terms of distance learning, telemedicine, and remote work, but also what it does for their businesses as well too. How can they now use this farming community, rural community, leverage high-speed connectivity to expand, the efficiency of agriculture, to allow them to counter all the challenges that we're faced as a society right now with the inflationary pressures, supply chain pressures, climate change impact to our businesses and to our personal lives. Connectivity is core to helping solve these problems.
Yeah, and since we last spoke, one thing that we see a lot of in the press, and it's well publicized, is AT&T rolling out their C-band nationwide. You talked a lot there about fiber and the speeds. How has the C-band rollout helped with your initiatives in those communities?
Yeah, I think a lot of people talk about the fiber network and the wireless network as two different networks. The reality is that we have one network, and I think the beauty of what we're doing here in AT&T is our ability to link these networks together, right? C-band does not exist without greater penetration of fiber and greater deployment of fiber. The reason why C-band is so effective is because of that fiber backhaul to the core, right? That's what enables C-bands to deliver it. But we also do need the C-band spectrum in terms of this, to fulfill the need of how people are evolving and changing the use of their services. And so what we've seen significant data consumption growth over the past couple of years, obviously, facilitated by the pandemic, but also really just kind of the progression of what has happened over the past decade, right? In terms of the digitization of the way we live, work, and play. And so C-band is critical as the consumption of data and as mobile services increase. we need to be able to provide additional capacity, and we need to continue to provide greater speed to support these applications. And C-band and mid-band spectrum in general, not just specifically C-band, is a great opportunity for us to do it in a cost-effective manner and allow us to leverage our existing macro sites to actually provide that capacity that people need, so that they have a seamless experience that they may not even appreciate themselves, right? Yeah. A lot of times, we talk about our network, and we talk about, what is the speed? Are we running at, 25 megs, 50 megs, 100 meg? The reality is that most people outside of this convention center really is not concerned about the speed. Yeah. What they're concerned about is their performance. Is there latency in terms of a delay in getting their content? Is there buffering that's occurring with their video services? Can they do a two-way video communications? And what we've been able to do in AT&T, combining the fiber network structure that we have with a very robust set of low-band spectrum, and also the combination of strategically deploying C-band and mid-band spectrum where it needs it, allows customers to really view the network and experience the network like oxygen. It is there, it's supporting what they need, and they don't need to worry about it. And that's what we're trying to achieve here in AT&T.
So it's seeing C-band as just part of the equation. It's augmenting the existing assets in play, as opposed to, okay, this is what we're focusing on right now. So you're bringing that holistic, and like you said, no one knows outside of this convention center. All they want is the connectivity, and they want the quality of service, right?
Yeah, I mean, go talk to somebody that's outside this convention center and ask them, how often do they run a speed test? We run speed tests all day long. I run speed tests on my phone on a constant basis to check the network and understand how we're performing and everything else. The reality is that most of the general population just want their services to work. Mm-hmm. And what we need to do as network providers is making sure that we create an environment, create a network that allows them to seamlessly transition through the complex architecture that we have created in this industry, without having necessary to worry about the fact that, am I on C-band, am I on millimeter wave, am I on low-band spectrum, am I on Wi-Fi? The reality is that you talk to customers, many of them can't provide the distinction between Wi-Fi versus low-band versus mid-band versus C-band. They just want these services to transition seamlessly from one network architecture to another architecture. And what our job is to make sure that we create a really dynamic and economic environment for our customers, is to make sure that we figure out ways to most efficiently take all that data and bring it back into the network and back out to the network in the most cost-efficient manner possible. Mm-hmm. If that is the result of pushing more traffic onto fiber, so be it. If that is moving traffic onto C-band, so be it. If that is through densification of small cells, so be it. I don't think a customer cares that, I just want my connection through C-band. I don't want it to go through a small cell. That doesn't exist. Right? I mean, that they want their connection to work and to work effectively.
Absolutely. Now, I'm going to go back to something you said before, Jeff, and I think this is really interesting. And we're right in the middle of this. When we last spoke 12 months ago, we looked predominantly at the digital divide. There'd been a light shone on it by COVID.
Yep.
We talked very much about education, because that was kind of the big thing that we needed to underpin. Since which time, it could be argued we're facing an even bigger crisis now, with the inflationary pressures caused by supply chain disruption, the war in Ukraine, the cost of living crisis that's in front of us. In many ways, this is going to amplify and exacerbate the digital divide, right? What are you seeing in this, with this extra pressure that's kind of come from nowhere?
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily right to say it come from nowhere. It's just creating a problem that was existing to be greater, right? I think with inflationary pressure, with supply chain issues and everything else, families are looking at their budget every single day and trying to figure out how to make ends meet, right? Although we're proud as an industry when you look at our services that we provide, both on the mobile side and the home internet connection side of it, our prices has dramatically lower than what inflation has been, not just in the past year or so, but over the past decade. I think the value that connectivity has provided in terms of the speed upgrade and capability that it's provided, but yet not necessarily increase in terms of to the same level of the pricing pressure that all other products and services have, I think is a testament to what we as an industry has done in terms of providing a great solution for folks. But that in itself is not sufficient. And that's where the federal government's Affordable Connectivity Program comes in, because this is not a problem that could be solved alone by industry, that government needs to be involved. And the good thing is that government understands how vital connectivity is, and that the need for government, for families to stay connected, and therefore is investing dollars alongside with the private sectors to support that need. And I think the last thing I would mention about that piece of it is that once, that the key to connectivity is that connectivity actually improves the economic situations of families. Obviously, we talk about how education could improve people's economic situation, how the ability to work remotely provides new job opportunities for them to continue to advance their careers, and telemedicine and more efficient use of healthcare also provides better benefit to society as a whole. And then in addition to that, you take that and you think about other applications that you're using in terms of having good connectivity, allowing you to minimize your commute, right? Look at what gas prices is right now, and to save a couple of trips, whether it's to the office or to go visit somebody, and to be able to do it remotely, it's a significant benefit to the budget. Not to mention that transportation is a key component to climate change, and so our ability that connectivity really can't be understated in terms of its benefit to the economic health of individual families, to communities as a general, and also its impact on climate change is very significant.
And that was going to be my next question, and I know we touched on this the last time we spoke. And I remember I phrased the question to you, if technology can help us get through COVID, can it help us get through the next big challenge facing humanity, climate change? And I remember you said, yes, absolutely. But based on the connectivity, reducing transportation, commuting, and gas prices, how else can technology help with climate change?
Yeah, so I think I definitely touched on how connectivity is helping families reduce their carbon footprint, and which is a significant component of climate change. But I think what we have not touched on is how technology is helping businesses transform the way they operate. I'll go back to the discussion for Vandenberg, Indiana. It's a rural town, it's an agriculture town. The ability to do precision agriculture, to limit the amount of fertilizer that they utilize, to effectively utilize more efficiently water. Especially, we're here in Las Vegas, and we understand the scarcity of water here in the southwestern United States. And so technology and its capability of enabling IoT really makes it very effective in terms of reducing the carbon footprint of agriculture. In addition to that, you could move on to manufacturing in terms of the more effective use of manufacturing using 5G technology, using IoT, and really having devices connected and be able to transmit data and allow us to control light and reducing our number of electricity on powering lights, powering machinery, powering stuff. The more effectively we operate, the less we are reliant on fossil fuel, and the less we are producing carbon, which is a severe impact to our climate.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we've got it running there as we're involved in the food resiliency program up in Snohomish County, which is taking that connectivity, taking a whole bunch of partners to make their operation so much more efficient. You're helping with energy consumption and carbon output, but you're also helping with the food shortage. We were in the middle of a food crisis issue right now. And one of my other guests I had on today is from a company called Wiliot that produces the ambient IoT tags to improve the efficiency of all supply chains, reduce perishable when food perishes because of a long duration. So I think we'll stay tuned on that, because I think it's continuing to move, it's continuing to help, and it certainly feels that we have the power to do it. But technology in this instance can be the savior again, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And your comment about food, there is not a scarcity of food. What there's a scarcity of is the logistics of getting the food in front of people that need it most.
Yeah.
And that is a problem that's ideal for technology to resolve, right? And so there's so much waste in terms of foods that goes spoiled because we cannot get it to the right places. And so, having the technology in place to enable that is significant.
Brilliant. So I think you've touched on this, but it's almost like a summary type question, Jeff. When we look at AT&T's C-band fiber rollout, its partners, its partnership with government, and etc., how would you rank how AT&T is doing now with the main goal of bridging the digital divide in comparison to what other players are doing?
Yeah, I think the focus for me is on the customer and on the community, right? And I believe that for us as an industry, what we need to do is we need to be customer focused and community focused, right? So much of what we do is we talk about our lingo. Nobody knows. I mean, there's a lot of people that are confused with what 5G is versus 4G. They're comparing 5G with 10G PON, right? So they don't even understand, each generation of wireless technology is different than 10 gigabits of traffic that's out there. We are so internally focused as an industry in terms of what we're doing. What we need to be doing is focusing on the community itself. It's understanding is what is going to provide the benefit to our customers. How do we improve their life? What do they need? What are some of the applications that they're utilizing that they can't do, right? And that's where, from our perspective in AT&T, is we look at our portfolio of solutions that we offer, from home broadband services with fiber to our 5G connectivity with both low-band spectrum and mid-band spectrum, to also really critically our band 14 FirstNet spectrum that allows our first responders to support their communities. You take those solutions and you help the communities based on their needs, but the start should absolutely be the customer and not be internally focused from an industry perspective.
I think that is such a poignant and brilliant comment there, Jeff, because I think we look at this convention again, or any event that we attend, and we focus on technology, speeds and feeds, functions, features. But I think we are now starting to look at outcomes, customer outcomes that we can produce, not just by ourselves as well, but in cooperation.
Absolutely.
And I think that language is changing. I think it's going to take a while because we're a tech industry, but that language is definitely changing.
Absolutely. The problems that we need to solve as a society is bigger than any one company or one industry can solve.
Absolutely.
It's something that needs to be done in partnership, across industries and across companies. And it's also something that needs to include government. And it's also something that needs to require, community-based organizations that has the ability and understands, their community better, and therefore, present problems that they have, and that we are able to align our solutions to their problems.
That's brilliant. Mm-hmm. That's brilliant. I must have said, it's so admirable and noble what you do, Jeff, and the role you play in AT&T. Does it feel good?
It feels really good, actually. It feels great when we're able to really affect lives and change the way that it works. I'm actually going out to Vandenberg, Indiana next week. We're going to be meeting with some of the people that their lives are literally changed because they have high-speed connectivity that they did not have before. Yeah. The way that they're going to live their lives going forward because of this capability that we provide as AT&T and as industry to them, is going to really affect, how they will live, and knowing the lifespans of fiber optic technology, how their children will live as well too. It's not a one-time situation. The services that we provide affects generational in terms of how it impacts those communities.
And social mobility and GDP, and it lifts people out of poverty. It gives people opportunities that they never had. It really is incredible.
It is.
Yeah. So thank you very much, Jeff. Listen, I've really enjoyed our conversation. We're going to finish now. This is how we finish in our latest season. We finish with our quick fire TGI to go round.
TGI to go.
And I'm only going to ask you 5 questions, and it's multiple choice, and it just gives us an insight into you a little bit more depth, and we can explore why you may have. Now we've got random questions on food and all sorts of other things, but my first question on TGI to go here to you, Jeff, is Frank Sinatra or Dean Martin?
They're both pretty good. I'm not sure I could pick a choice.
Okay.
Yep.
But I'm with you on that. I couldn't choose a winner of those two.
Yeah. It's
But,
impossible.
It's definitely that. Now we're in Vegas. Slots or roulette?
Roulette.
Yeah.
I don't believe on just hitting a button and having that determine my destiny. As much as I know that the odds are against you, I wanna make a choice, right?
Great answer. On a more culinary matter here, Tex-Mex or Indian?
Oh, Tex-Mex. I lived in Texas twice in my life, 2 years each, and oh my God, I could have Tex-Mex every single day.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a good answer. That's a good answer. And staying over in California, because I know that's where you live, Jeff. Santa Barbara or Napa Valley?
Santa Barbara. I actually did 2 years at UC Santa Barbara, the mighty gauchos. There's a reason why housing prices are so crazy in Santa Barbara. It is the most beautiful place in the world along that coast in Santa Barbara.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, listen, I want to thank you for coming on the show again, Jeff. I've really enjoyed our conversation.
Same here.
And what else are you hoping to see before the week is through?
Really just meeting with a lot of colleagues and really looking forward to all the new technologies that we're producing and creating new solutions that we could utilize to help our communities.
What a brilliant beginning to our MWC 2022 Season 5 episode. Stay tuned for more, and also check out amdocs.com/The Great Indoors for more information, back episodes, and videos associated with TGI. I'm Matthew Roberts in Las Vegas for Amdocs. See you next time, wherever you are.